Well, greetings everyone, and welcome to another edition of Movie Goodness here on the KB Radio Network. I don't need to tell y'all, I don't need to explain to y'all that this is an episode near and dear to my heart and soul. It goes without saying, y'all already know what we talking about today. Today is special. Today is monumental. Today is a juggernaut of movie goodness, because it is plenty of movie goodness to go around today, because we're talking about Batman. And if you've been around me for 5 minutes, you know that I am the biggest Batman fan of all time, and I couldn't pass up the opportunity to commemorate this occasion. Just this past week, on the 19th of June, marked not only Father's Day, not only Juneteenth, Freedom Day, but it marked the 30th anniversary of the release of Batman Returns in theaters. In 30 years. And immediately when I saw that, and I started researching, looking up things surrounding the film, just so happened that I rewatched this movie about a month or so ago with my daughter, and it just all came into place. It was like it was meant to be. I had to discuss this movie, and I was going to save this to like a Christmas episode, because this film takes place around Christmas. And when this popped up, I can't wait. I can't wait. They actually had another anniversary about a week or so ago that I was planning on doing, but I didn't care about that. It was the 40th anniversary of 40th anniversary of E.T. And I said, man, or was the 35th? I can't even remember now. It doesn't even matter, because we're not talking about it. But this takes center stage. I mean, it's Batman. And not only is it Batman, but it's Batman Returns, one of the best Batman films ever. Yeah, I'm saying it, ever. If you find, well, I'm not saying it's the best. I'm not gonna say it's the best, but it's definitely one of the best. And I got to thinking, like, man, it's funny how 30 years later you had a movie come out that is like a spiritual remake of Batman Returns, and that was The Batman. The Batman, in a lot of ways, is a spiritual remake of Batman Returns. Here's the reason. We have Batman, we have Catwoman, we have the Penguin. In The Batman, you had the Batman, you had Catwoman, you had the Penguin. all that was there. You had a gangster in The Batman, a crime boss rather, in Falcone. And in Batman Returns, you had Max Schreck, who wasn't a crime boss, but he was a corrupt business tycoon. Yeah, man. You had in Batman Returns, you had the Penguin fighting to be the mayor. Well, was going to try to be the mayor to corrupt the city and whatnot. And in The Batman, you had a mayor's election, a mayor's race was taking place during that film. So it was a lot of similarities, and it really didn't hit me until a couple of days ago. And I said, man, that is crazy how, I guess you could say, it influenced. Now, Matt Reeves never came out and said that that was an influence or anything like that, but I just found it funny. I saw it, and I thought it was crazy. That's not knocking it, because I love The Batman. The Batman is still in my top 3 films this year so far. And we're midway through the year. So it's safe to say it's probably going to stay in the top 10. Unless we have 8 movies come out this year that is just going to blow my mind. I don't see it happening. I would like it, but I don't see it happening. But all things are possible. But I doubt it. But I went to thinking also 30 years ago when this movie came out and the phenomenon surrounding this movie because of the first movie in 1989 and how that just took the world by storm. Batman 1989. If you wasn't a Batman fan, you became one at least that summer. The summer of 89 belonged to Batman. It was amazing. You had to be there. It was amazing. You saw the bat symbol everywhere. T-shirts, hats, posters, billboards, in the stores, wherever. I mean, on I want to say Taco Bell. Taco Bell had the promotion because I still got the cup. It's at my mom's house. The Batman cup from Taco Bell. And all this stuff. I mean, it was everywhere. That's all you saw was that bat symbol. And it pierced my heart for the simple fact I was already a Batman fan. I came to love Batman. It's before I really got into comics. And it was, of course, the Adam West, Burt Ward, 1960s film. Not film. Well, the film too. They had a film, but the TV show, and I fell in love with it. Yes, it was campy. It was silly. It was made for kids, but I enjoyed it. I loved it, and it was Batman for that time. Of course, it wasn't gritty. It wasn't bloody. Batman didn't kill people. You had his rogues gallery. I mean, he was going against King Tut along with the Joker. Cesar Romero, who had the paint on his face but refused to shave his mustache, so you can see the mustache under the paint. The paint on his face, but it didn't matter. Burgess married it as the Penguin, but at that time I had already seen Rocky, and it was Mickey. I know him as Mickey from Rocky, and when I put the 2 and 2 together, like, man, he looks familiar. And when I watched the old Batman series, I'm like, wait, he was the Penguin? Wow, that is crazy. But yes, Catwoman's, the different Catwomans. First time I saw a black woman in a superhero role, I guess you could say, even though she wasn't a superhero, but like a superhero show where Eartha Kitt was Catwoman, and was one of the best Catwomen. I mean, Eartha Kitt was fire. All of them were good, but yeah, and that's when I fell in love. I fell in love with Batman, and that movie was just an extension of the show. But if you haven't seen the movie, if you ever seen that meme or that gif where you see Batman running on this fishing pier with this bomb and he couldn't get rid of the bomb, that's from the movie, the Adam West one I'm talking about. And as dumb as that is, I still love it. I still catch those reruns. What it was on IMC, not IMC, IFC. They had a marathon a while ago, and I caught a couple of episodes, and I like, oh my god, I still love this show. I miss Adam. R.I.P. to Adam West, man. I still miss that. I miss that show. I love that show. But that wasn't, I guess you could say, quote unquote, the Batman that I know now or grew up with, that came up in my era, because around the time when I started getting into comic books, we had The Dark Knight Returns, graphic novel by Frank Miller. And I read that. And I was like, man, this is not Adam West's this is about as far from the Adam West Batman as you can get. I mean, you had an old grizzled Bruce Wayne. He's retired. Robin has been killed. He finally gets back under the cowl, and he's beating criminals half to death. He's using guns. You got the Joker killing people on national television, live national television. Joker snapping his own neck. That's where we got the epic showdown between Batman and Superman, when Batman actually beat Superman, technically. And we get that epic line that rings through comic book history as probably one of the coldest lines ever uttered by any comic book character ever. And it goes a little something like this: I want you to remember, Clark. I want you to remember my hand around your throat. I want you to remember in all your private moments the one man who beat you. And that has stuck with me for almost 40 years. That was the coldest. He's telling this to Superman while he's choking him to death. It was epic, because you've never seen nothing like that before. Granted, he had a little help. Green Arrow shot a kryptonite arrow at him and at Superman and had him a little weakened. But I don't care. Batman beat Superman. Batman is the man. He's a beast, man. He's a beast. And everybody say, oh, with prep time, they always make fun of the fact with enough prep time, Batman can beat anybody. Well, it's true. With enough prep time, he can't beat anybody. You just got to catch him when he's not prepping. But that's the problem. He's already done thought this through. The man is a master genius. Batman, aka Bruce Wayne, is a genius in comics. So take that with what you will. But that leads us into the film in 1989, and now you're getting this darker, grittier Batman on the big screen. And I think around that time, a lot of people didn't agree with it. And it's funny I remember all this because God knows we didn't have internet. We didn't have, the E channel. You get all these behind the scenes stories and whatnot. But I remember, well, this actually came on the nightly news and stuff. People were in an uproar about that movie because, first and foremost, it was announced that Michael Keaton was starring as Batman. Now, this started a trend with Batman going forward with the casting. That is all. I don't care what Batman film it is. It could be the animated. It could be literally. It could be animated. There's going to be an uproar about the casting surrounding Batman. Either it's Batman or Joker or Catwoman, whatever. Some of the villains. I don't care if it's Alfred Pennyworth. They going to have a complaint. And this started in 1989 with Michael Keaton being cast as Batman. Now, I can somewhat understand it. At the time, honestly, I was kind of confused. I was, about 11, 12 years old? And so, I think I was 11. It don't matter. I kind of got it because I'm fresh off of watching him as Beetlejuice, right? This is right after Beetlejuice. And I'm like, oh, wait, Beetlejuice is going to be Batman? Oh, my goodness. I can't say that well, how many times I said Beetlejuice? Well, that's the last time I'm going to say it. I think it's 7 times. How many times you got to say Beetlejuice before he pop up? But anyway, that was a little stab at humor. I'm pretty sure it failed. But anyways, besides that, then you think Mr. Mom? Mr. Mom is Bruce Wayne, aka Batman. I just don't see it. Then you have the fact that Michael Keaton is about 5'8". Michael Keaton is not tall at all. Bruce Wayne in the comic books is 6'3", I believe. I mean, Michael Keaton is almost my height. I'm short. I'm borderline midget. So it's me and him is in the same camp, and he's gonna play Batman. And he's more of a comedic type of actor. So I'm like, okay, so maybe they're going, the Adam West route. They're gonna be a little campy and, silly and whatnot. Then they announced about Jack Nicholson as the Joker. I was kind of thrown off by that because I'm like, Jack Nicholson, he kind of old. I felt he was a little old to play the Joker. I don't know how old he was at the time, but that's how I felt. Now, granted, I'm young. I'm not as immersed into the film industry as I am now. So these were kind of silly questions, but this was what was going through my mind then. Okay, whatever. But I love this character so much, I'm willing to give it a shot. Billy D. Williams as Harvey Dent. Okay. We can rock with that. Let's see how this goes. Summer of 89, the film is released, and the world loses their collective mind, and I'm one of them. And I'm like, I'm sorry, Mr. Keaton, because the very first scene in that movie, when he holds that criminal over the edge of the building, and he's like, "Who are you?" And I'm Batman, and that was it. I fell in love. I was in love with Michael Keaton from that moment. He could have got on his knees and proposed, and I would have said yes. I was in love with Michael Keaton as Bruce Wayne, aka Batman. He did no wrong in my eyes, and it's to this day, he is still number one in my eyes. We've had some real good Batmen. I mean, excellent Batmen. Christian Bale, Ben Affleck, surprisingly. Robert Pattinson, surprisingly. I didn't hate Val Kilmer, believe it or not. But none of them is Michael Keaton. Michael Keaton understood the character. And it's amazing because Michael Keaton said it when, before filming began and whatnot. He made it known. He's not a comic book reader. He never read one issue of Batman. He that wasn't his thing. And I get it, that it's not for everybody. But despite that, he understood the character. And I've said this many times before when we discussed Batman in the past. And I'm going to say it again. In order to understand Batman, you have to understand this one undeniable truth. Batman is the personality. Bruce Wayne is the mask. He doesn't put on the mask and become Batman. He is Batman. Bruce Wayne died when his parents died in that alley. Bruce Wayne died with him. From that moment on, he was Batman. And bringing up the most recent film that came out a few months ago with Robert Pattinson, The Batman, Robert Pattinson understood the assignment. He was Batman. He didn't care about being Bruce Wayne. Bruce Wayne was that was his mask in public. And so what I loved about that movie was the fact 80% of that movie, well, I'll go as far as say 85, almost 90% of that movie, he was in the suit the whole time. You probably got 3, maybe 4 scenes of Robert Pattinson as Bruce Wayne, and they were small scenes. The rest of the film was Batman. But moving on. So that leads us. I can't even speak now. I'm all flustered because of this. this leads us into our film today. The 30th year anniversary of the release of a classic, Batman Returns. I was so excited for this movie, of course, when it came out. And I remember the night it came out. It was June the 19th, 1992. And my cousin had came over, and that night, because we had already planned it out. We're going to see Batman Returns that night. We're not waiting till Saturday. We're going to see it Friday night. And had asked my dad, and my dad's like, nah, that's too late of a showing. Just wait for it in the morning, and I'll bring y'all or whatever. Okay. So obviously disappointment ran through us. But I had a diamond in the rough. I had a backup plan, people. I had a brother. So we convinced him to bring us that night. So he agreed. He dropped us off. And at United Artists Theaters, I'll never forget it, right in my hometown. It's not there no more. But went to go see Batman Returns, and I walked in with expectations through the roof. Walked out, and those expectations, for the most part, were met. At the time, I felt it was better than the first. It was better than Batman. But I had problems. Now, this is before I used to criticize movies. This is before I used to dissect the film. I guess you could say this was the first film that I actually mentally dissected. Now, I had issues with this movie, and those issues are still there. They haven't gotten any better, and so they are still there. But I still feel the same way I felt on the night of June the 19th, 1992. Despite the fact I had my issues, it was better than the original. And to put it generally, it was better than all the Tim Burton only did two. He did the first one and this one. This was the best out of the Tim Burton / Joel Schumacher Batmans. That's which isn't hard to do, but I enjoyed them so much. Is it The Dark Knight? No. No. Is it the Batman? I don't know, but it's up there. It is great. I'm surprised that this movie doesn't get as much love as, I don't know. I think people show more love to Batman Forever than they do to this one. And Batman Forever, which I liked when it first came out, but when I got older, on repeat watch, this movie is horrible, man. I tried watching it. Like I said, me and my daughter, we did a marathon of Batman movies a while back. It was probably around the time of the Batman's release, and I was like, man, this is not as good as I remember. It was crazy because I don't hate the movie. It's just not as good as I remember. Now, Batman and Robin, I can't even get through that. Me and my daughter, once again, she wanted to watch it. I tried to talk her out of it, and she wanted to see it. She checked out in the first, I'm gonna say 15-20 minutes. I checked out the first 15-20 seconds. I was out of it, and something came up whereas we stopped it and didn't go back to watch it, and that was months ago. She hasn't brought it up, and I haven't brought it up. I doubt if we ever go back to finish watching it, because I watched that movie maybe one and a half times. I mean, just sitting down trying to watch it. I haven't done it. I just can't do it. It is that bad. But anyway, Batman Returns, as I stated before, it came out in 1992. It is a superhero film directed by Tim Burton, and he, as I stated before, directed the first one. The first Batman had a lot of studio influence, a lot of notes that he really didn't care for. He was going back and forth with Warner Brothers, but after the success of it, Warner Brothers wanted him to come back, make the sequel. He didn't want to do the sequel, but he gave a stipulation: if I'm gonna come back and do the sequel, I need complete creative control. And this Batman film is a Tim Burton film. This is about as Tim Burton as you can get. And I think it benefited greatly for it. This is very gritty, and it is close. It's about as close to an R as you can get around that era. See, right now it is definitely PG-13. Might be PG by today's standards, because the Batman, which came out a few months ago, they claim it was close to an R, but I didn't see where it was close to an R. It really wasn't as gritty and bloody as this movie, in which this doesn't have a lot of blood in it, but the implications, I mean, there's a lot of murder in this movie. There's a lot of murder in this movie. I mean, Batman blew a man up. He set a man on fire. I'm talking one of the henchmen. These are the henchmen he did this to. Set him on fire with the Batmobile. Put a bomb in somebody's pants and threw him down a hole, and he blew up. A woman was thrown off a building. I mean, Catwoman, she was murdered at least 8 times. Yeah, she was thrown off the building. They threw 2 women off the building there. And Catwoman was thrown off the building twice, I believe. Yeah, there was a lot of violence in this movie. Very brutal. And the Penguin was just disgusting with the black goo coming out of his mouth and nose and all this other stuff. And it was brutal. It was brutal. It was brutal. But I loved every minute of it. And speaking of Catwoman, Michelle Pfeiffer. I can't go any further without mentioning Michelle Pfeiffer, who plays Selena Kyle, aka Catwoman. After this film, we've had a few iterations of Catwoman on the screen. We've seen Halle Berry, unfortunately, play Catwoman. We've seen Anne Hathaway play Catwoman. We've seen Zoe Kravitz play Catwoman. 30 years in between Zoe Kravitz and Michelle Pfeiffer. And in 30 years, Michelle Pfeiffer is still the quintessential Catwoman. That is no disrespect to the other young ladies. I enjoyed Zoe Kravitz as Catwoman. She actually did an excellent job. She was really, really good. I mean, surprisingly good in that movie, in The Batman. I really, really enjoyed her in that movie. Anne Hathaway, she was decent. She was all right. Oh my God, man, Halle Berry. Why does that movie even exist? Oh my God, that is a horrible movie. My God in heaven. But yes, Michelle Pfeiffer, man. No Catwoman has ever been that fierce, that sexy, that independent driven, and as her. I mean, she was Catwoman, and believe it or not, she was not the first choice. Actually, Annette Bening was cast as Selena Kyle, Catwoman. That's a completely different movie. But right before filming started, she found out she was pregnant. So she had to drop out of the role. Now, Annette Bening was going to be paid $1 million for her role, which is a pretty nice chunk of change back then. It still is now if you give it to me. And you give me $1 million now, I'll make it stretch. But yeah, that was her salary if she was going to take the role as Selena Kyle, aka Catwoman. Well, once she dropped out, they had to go back begging on their knees for Michelle Pfeiffer. Well, Michelle Pfeiffer got paid $3 million to play Catwoman, which is kind of crazy. If I was Annette Bening, I would be hot like fish grease. And I know she got a baby out the deal, and that's a blessing from heaven. But $3 million. Oh my good. I mean, if she had a girl, she should have named her Selena. She should have, just so she could be reminded, like, you cost me $3 million. Don't do that. I'm joking. Don't do that to your kids. It's not your children's fault. But anyways, yeah. So she took that $3 million payday, and let me tell you something. She was underpaid. And they probably paid her more. And I like Annette Bening. She is a great actress. I don't think she could have did. I don't know. Annette Bening probably could have been awesome. Probably could have been 10 times better than Michelle Pfeiffer. We'll never know, but I do know this. Michelle Pfeiffer was outstanding. Still to this day, nobody can hold a stick to Michelle Pfeiffer. Amazing portrayal of Catwoman. Danny DeVito as the Penguin. Who else could you have picked? I mean, he was great. There's a lot of criticism around his portrayal as Oswald Cobblepot. And look, I get it. He isn't your conventional Penguin, but for this movie, he was good. Yes, this isn't the Penguin from the comics or the animated series, but for this movie, it's perfect. He fits the story. And the story of this movie, in Batman Returns, Batman faces the Penguin, who plots to kill all of Gotham City's firstborn sons after dealing with Max Schreck, a corrupt tycoon who allies with the Penguin to bring Gotham City under his control, and Catwoman, who seeks revenge against Schreck. That was another element that was just spot on to me. Max Schreck, who was portrayed menacingly by Christopher Walken. When I first saw it, I remember sitting there in the theater watching it. I'm like, who is this character? One, he was made up for the movie. He's not a comic book character, unless they put him in later on and I didn't see it. But for the movie, he was created. And Christopher Walken was awesome. I loved his character. I didn't think we was going to need him, but we needed him. And he was awesome for it. And of course, Michael Keaton. Michael Keaton just kept on chugging along as Batman. And him and Michelle Pfeiffer's chemistry was so great in this film. I think I read this somewhere. I could be 100% wrong. If I am, I apologize. But I believe they used to date years prior to this film, them working together on this film. And it wouldn't shock me if that was true, because their chemistry was spot on perfect. The relationship between Catwoman and and Batman, and between Bruce Wayne and Selena Kyle, because that's what was going on. Bruce Wayne and Selena Kyle were quote unquote dating, trying to get to know each other, and at the same time, Batman and Catwoman was trying to, not trying to get together, but they had this just attraction to each other, and they couldn't understand why, because neither of them knew who the other was. So it was it was a cool little dynamic going on in the movie, and it was like 4 different characters, and it's just perfect. It was done perfectly. It was directed and written, I think, pretty excellently, and nothing speaks to that more than the scene when they find out who each other are when they are at that masquerade ball. Now, everybody in the party was wearing masks, right? Everybody had on their little, masquerade masks over their faces. Bruce Wayne didn't wear a mask. Selena Kyle wasn't wearing a mask. They were the only 2 in that party not wearing a mask. So you think. I revert back to the conversation I was having with you guys earlier. They were wearing masks. They were wearing their masks. Bruce Wayne is the mask. Selena Kyle is the mask. The real them is Batman and Catwoman. It was just a beautiful scene, and with that backdrop, they're the only ones not with their faces not covered. And when they figured it out, and Michelle Pfeiffer's line was, "Oh, are we supposed to start fighting now?" It was just a cute, funny scene. You could tell that they had fallen in love with each other, and it was just great. It was great. I enjoyed it. I loved the look of this. It was dark. It was really, really. It was darker than the first one, in my opinion. And I'm not talking so much tone, which tone, yes, but I mean color palette, and it fit. It just fit the tone, and it's set in Christmas. This film is set in Christmas, and it just looked beautiful. The special effects was excellent. It was nominated for best visual effects. It lost, but it was nominated at the Academy Awards that year. But I don't know, man. It's just something about Batman Returns that I'm not going to say guilty pleasure, because I feel it's an excellent film, and I don't think it gets enough credit. It really doesn't get enough credit, and I think a lot of that is because of the backlash when it was released. It was a lot of backlash for this film. Parents were hot. I mean, they were boycotting, sending letters to the studio, to the movie theaters, even to McDonald's. They were upset with this movie and its dark tone and its violence. Said it wasn't made for kids, and giving it that PG-13 rating opens the door for children to go see it. They didn't need the parents' permission if they were 13. Well, don't kid yourselves. They let kids under 13 into those movies, but they didn't need parents' supervision to go see it. They could just go see it, and that drove parents up the wall. And the mere fact that McDonald's had a Happy Meal cross promotion with the film, it didn't help matters any. It was to the point McDonald's had to pull the Happy Meal promotion. They stopped the promotion because of the backlash with the violence and all that stuff. It is a very violent film. I just told you a whole bunch of stuff, with the blowing up people, setting people on fire, throwing people off the roofs, and and whatnot. It was very violent. Don't get me wrong, but by today's standard, it's G-rated. By today, I done seen 10 times worse, and so I'm not excusing the violence of it, but it's a comic book movie. People, read a comic book, and I think that gives me the perfect opportunity to segue into this. for parents and guardians or whoever that are in charge of these children. Understand this: when you get mad at movies and you feel that movies is the reason for these kids being violent and wanting to try new things, even video games, it's certain things you just can't run away from. You're either going to see it on TV or see it in real life. Just the other day, I came home from work. Well, before I came home from work, my daughter had came home from work, and she called me and asked me what was going on. I'm at work, and she calls me and asks me if I could find out what happened, on the corner where we stay at. Well, a couple of blocks from where we stay at. And I was like, I don't know what's going on. What's going on? Well, there's a lot of police out here. They caution taped everything off and whatever. I'm like, well, can you get to the house? You're like, yeah, it's on the other side. I can get to the house. I'm like, okay. And so it kind of slipped my mind. I forgot. And then when I went home, I saw all the police tape and all the police detectives and all that stuff around the corner. I went home and I asked them, oh, did you find out what happened? They're like, yeah, someone got shot. Someone got killed right there around the corner from me. Oh, okay. And well, that's a whole nother story. I'm going down that rabbit hole. But anyway, the point I'm trying to make is you can't run from from the violence of the world. I think it's everywhere. It is everywhere. We've seen it. We've people getting shot in churches, kids being murdered in schools. Old people being murdered in grocery stores. I mean, you can't escape the violence, man. You see worse stuff on the news than you do in the movie. It's sad. So I understand you're trying to protect your children to a degree, but this is harmless compared to what's really going on in the world. This is a comic book movie. It's make believe. This isn't based on a true story. If you ever picked up a comic book and read it, it's really not for children. It's a lot of stuff in there that is really dark in those comic books, and I ain't trying to hurt nobody's feelings, but that's just what it is. It's the truth. I mean, getting mad at McDonald's because of a promotion. Oh, they affiliated with the film? I mean, come on, man. Come on. But it really, I think it hurt this movie. And it really did hurt the franchise, because after this, that's when they did a whole course correction. That's when we got the vibrant neon colors of Batman Forever and, Batman and Robin. They were childish. They were campy. And I mean, campy bad, not campy good, because good camp is an enjoyable movie. Bad camp is an abomination to film. And, so, and those movies were. Plus, they wanted to sell more toys. So you couldn't sell no toys off of this movie. It was too dark. What, you going to have a toy with Danny DeVito spitting blood out of his mouth? Michelle Pfeiffer with all her voluptuousness in that little skin tight suit. No, you couldn't sell that to little Susie and Tommy at Toys R Us. No, so they had to hurry up and course correct, and that's why you got those films the way you got those films, and that's why Tim Burton didn't direct the sequels after this, and Michael Keaton stepped away, and that was that. But at least we got this, and not the Batman, but Batman Returns gets a letter grade from me of an A. I love this movie, and yeah, I'm being a tad biased, of course. I'm not gonna lie to you. This Batman. It's rare that I give Batman films an F. I do. There is one out there, and I bet you don't have to think hard to guess which one it is. But other than that, yeah, I love them. And this one is one of my favorites. I will watch Batman Returns whenever it comes on. I love Michael Keaton. And everybody loves Michael Keaton as Batman, because why else are we still getting Michael Keaton as Batman 30 years later. Because he is returning this year. We get to see him this year as Bruce Wayne, aka Batman, in the HBO Max film Batgirl, which will come out later this year, and I can't wait for that. Also, he will be returning as Batman in the new Flash film, which comes out next year. So, the man, Michael Keaton is about, if he's not 70, he's pushing it. He's knocking on 70's door. So he's up there. But if you watched The Prodigy, which came out a couple of years, maybe last year or the year before, and it was a little action movie, and he had a little scene in there. Michael Keaton can still get down with the get down. I mean, he wasn't Bruce Willis and Sylvester Stallone, as far as action is concerned, but he can still handle himself, and right now he still can handle himself, and I can honestly see him in a suit. Let's think about it. Oh, he's all old. He got gray hair and all. You're not gonna see all that under the bat cowl. I don't care about that. I just need you to talk. The way he talks, his voice as Batman, that's enough for me. I always envisioned him, if they could ever coach him to coming back. This before he came back for these two projects. Michael Keaton, if he can come back as Bruce Wayne in a Batman Beyond film. Y'all remember that animated show? Oh, that would have been so awesome. And he still can do it. I mean, he's of the age right now. He can pull that off. Old Bruce Wayne training up Terry McGinnis as the new Batman. Oh man, I can honestly see that. But hey, if he's gonna put on the suit and the cowl, I'm all for it. And sign me up. I cannot wait for those two projects to drop. Oh man. But yes, Batman Returns. 30 years. I am officially old because I just told you the story of what happened the night I went to go see that movie, and I remember it like it was yesterday. That was 30 years ago. Wow. Amazing, ain't it? But time flies when you're having fun. Yes. How do you remember seeing Batman Returns for the first time? Have you ever seen Batman Returns? If you're listening to this show and you never seen Batman Returns, come on now. Y'all got to get it from under that rock. That rock is not that heavy. Push that rock from on top of you, because you don't need to be living under it. Go see. I'm sure it's on one. Actually, I watched it. It was on Hulu, I believe. It might be on HBO Max even. It's on one of those streaming services. Check it out. Even if you haven't seen it in a long time and you was kind of on the fence with it back then, watch it again. Watch it again with older eyes, not younger eyes. Your eyes, because my eyes are getting older. I can barely see, but with a better perspective, an older, wiser perspective, and see if you can appreciate it more this go around. I really did, and I always did love it. It always did hold a special place in my heart, and it still does. Let me know. Email the show at kbradiopodcast@gmail.com. Look us up on social media. Just look up the KB Radio Network on all social media platforms. On all listening platforms. Don't forget about the reviews, the ratings, sharing, letting everybody know you're listening to the KB Radio Network. Everybody, it has been an honest privilege and oh man, a great joy to talk about my favorite comic book character, movie character, just character in general, Batman. Man, I love me some Batman. And I can't wait for Batgirl to come out, because it looks very interesting. It looks very interesting. And that was before they announced Michael Keaton returning as Batman. So that should be interesting, man. But anywho's, everybody, stay hydrated out there. Stay cool out there. It is hot. down here. This is some disrespectful heat, man. I tell you no lie. When I get off of work, I come inside. I don't even like to look out the window. I don't want to see nothing associated with the sun. It is a pressure cooker out there. Y'all stay hydrated out there. Be safe. Know that I love you. Continue to love one another. And until we speak again, you all be blessed.